Everybody hear me? Mic test 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you all for being here this morning. My name is Eric Ross. I'm the Media Relations Director for the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office. We are here today to talk about solving a 2006 cold case homicide. So I will briefly introduce the people off to my left. First off, we have Senior Chief Deputy DA Chris Wilcox out of Douglas County. We have Chief Dan Oates from the Aurora Police Department. We have Detective Jason McDonald from the Aurora Police Department. And we have Deputy DA Grant Groskebauer with the 18th Judicial District Attorney's Office. We will start with Chief Deputy DA, Senior Chief Deputy DA Chris Wilcox.
Thanks, Eric. Good morning. As Eric said, my name is Chris Wilcox. I supervise our cold case unit in the 18th Judicial District. This week, our office has filed charges and an arrest warrant is issued in 22 CR 2342, charging Salvador Hernandez Morales with the murder of Francesca Perea Dominguez. This is a case that is solved and charged due to the hard work, dedication, and persistence of the Aurora Police Department's cold case unit, as well as our partners at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. I want to congratulate Chief Oates, Detective McDonald for their fantastic work in bringing this case into the criminal justice system. We expect that this defendant is going to have to be extradited, and so over the course of the next several months, we're going to be working toward that process and returning him to Colorado to see justice done. But the first step in beginning that process was to get this case actually filed into court and have these charges filed. I do briefly want to just identify the charges that were filed. There's one count of first-degree murder after deliberation, one count of first-degree murder for felony murder, and one count of sexual assault, which is a Class 2 felony. I want to turn it over next to Chief Oates on behalf of the Aurora Police Department. Sir, congratulations and excellent work.
Thanks, Chris. Well, Chris, thank you. I'm very proud to stand here as the chief here in Aurora. I remember this horrific crime from 2006. I was in my first year here during my first stint as the police chief, and this is an example of the commitment and tenacity of this organization to go after folks who commit horrible crimes, no matter how long it takes. I'm very, very proud of the work of Jason McDonald and his teammates in our major crimes unit for their effort and persistence in this case. And I'm also very proud of the patrol officers who responded that night and their preservation of evidence and the initial work that they did that assisted in this this moment. We look forward to the day that we can hold this suspect accountable in a court of law, and I congratulate everyone in the 18th for their assistance to get to this moment. So thank you, Chris, Jason, thank you, Chris, and your team, and my thanks to all the teammates here in the Aurora Police Department who made this moment possible. Thanks, Chris. And why don't we introduce, okay, McDonald will make a few remarks. Jason?
Hi, I'm Detective Jason McDonald. I'm the cold case detective here at Aurora PD. I've been an officer with the department for 18 years. I've been a detective here for over 9 years, and the cold case homicide detective for almost a year now. This case with Francesca Perea Dominguez was one of the first cases I looked at. My predecessor as the cold case detective said I should take a look at this because it has some potential. And so I started looking at the case. I did a complete review of over 1,000 pages of investigative reports and other documents and saw that there was potential in this case. It was a roommate of the victim that had fled the country after her murder that was the target of the investigation. And I identified some items of evidence that had not been tested yet. And so working with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, working with the District Attorney's Office, we got those items tested, and the results came back as expected. And it has allowed us to charge the roommate of Francesca, Salvador Hernandez Morales, with her murder. Our cold case motto is, "We will never forget." And that also means that we will never stop trying to solve these cases. And cold cases are the most difficult cases. They've been worked by several top detectives until there are no further leads that they can pursue. And when a cold case detective gets the case, you have to examine everything and try to find what gaps there are. what leads you can still pursue and then go after it. And that's what our mission is.
So I guess we'll take any questions that you have, Chris.
Are there any questions?
Can you just go back to 2006 and just kind of rehash what exactly happened that day? Because it's been a while, you know.
Sure. I think that might be a better question for Jason.
So July 1st, 2006, is when Francisca Pérez Dominguez was found in her apartment. She was deceased when she was found. She was killed with a stab wound. There were signs of sexual assault. DNA was collected from Francisca and the crime scene, and that DNA evidence was ultimately used to identify the suspect.
He's been a suspect from day one, is basically quite what you're saying, but what led to today's charges? What took so long? Can you talk about that whole process?
So the roommate, Salvador Hernandez Morales, was the person of interest from the get-go. And it was a matter of confirming that he was in fact the perpetrator. And it was a matter of DNA evidence and items still needing to be tested that hadn't previously been tested. Identifying those items and getting them to CBI and working with the DA's office is what led to ultimately identifying this roommate as the suspect.
Is it correct that the DNA on a toothbrush found in the apartment matched DNA from the sexual assault?
That is correct.
And where was he taken into custody? Can you talk about, because you say you're going to have to bring him back to Colorado. Can you talk about that?
I can touch on that a little bit. So he's not currently located in the United States, and so we're going to be having to work through a relatively lengthy process to seek his arrest in Mexico and his extradition. So he's not in custody today. As you can see, there's some information up on the screen that, we are obviously here to announce this and to pursue his arrest, but also his extradition. It's important to also note, as we do every time we talk about these cases, that when we file charges and arrest warrants issued, that's the first step in the process. Anyone is presumed innocent unless and until they're proven guilty. But we do also want people to come forward with any additional information they might have, and they can do that by reaching out to the Crime Stoppers information that's up on the screen.
Did any of you have a chance to talk to the family and see what their reaction was once they found that this is the suspect, and you've gone, to the process of getting him?
Yeah, Jason, I don't know if you want to touch on that. I know some family members certainly have been notified, but I don't know that I want to speak to that conversation. If there's anything you want to say on that, feel free.
Our Victim Services Unit, as well as the District Attorney's Office Victim Services Unit, have made attempts to reach family, and they were successful in reaching some family of the victim. And they have notified them of the outcome here, and their efforts are duly noted.
Does that family still live here in the state, or have they moved out of state also, or are they out of the country too, or you can't?
I'm not aware of that, but they did make contact.
Do you know if the suspect has come back to the U.S. since the killing, or has he always been in Mexico?
Can I answer that one? So the suspect has made attempts to come back into the United States since 2006 and has been deported, and there is no record of him coming back. The last contact was in 2009. And again, there was no arrest warrant for him back in 2009, so there was no hold on him at that time.
And can you just talk about that process? You had the DNA, but it takes this long to test it, or how does that work? Can you talk about that process, because it's been over 10 years?
I'm happy to touch on that a little bit if I can. So our office has been a part, and when John Kellner first came to our office in the 18th Judicial District, it was to start our cold case unit in 2013. And I took that over from John, and Grant Groskebauer is now our cold case prosecutor. I know Jason has seen this, but the evolution in DNA technology and their ability to retest an item that maybe didn't have a sufficient sample 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago changes literally week to week. And so there are a lot of items as we look back on cases from this time period and even before 2006 time period where it wouldn't have been possible to get a sample to a lab to test, to compare, but now it is, because the technology has become so much more refined and much more sensitive. And so I think it's always important for us to have this commitment to reviewing and systematically looking at these cold cases, and as Jason said, that idea that we're never going to give up on these cases. Just because we don't know the answer today, technology may help us get a couple of steps closer. I think that certainly played a role in this case. I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, Jason.
I think you covered that very well.
But the chief brought this up. Your investigators did a great job of containing and getting the evidence so that when the time comes and
Yeah,
technology-
it's an important lesson, and people don't necessarily understand this about police work, is from the moment we arrive at a crime scene like this, the role of every police officer in that arrival, every crime scene investigator becomes critical. And as Mr. Wilcox said, you know, there are ongoing refinements. I've been in this business 40 years, and it's remarkable what you can do now that you couldn't do 5 or 10 years ago with regard to forensic evidence. And this is one of those kinds of cases. So, but it all starts with that first level patrol officer getting to the scene and doing what he or she is trained to do to preserve evidence, and all the other steps that we take at a crime scene. So, you know, this is an important success for the department. And again, it's an evidence of our level of commitment not forget, you know, crime victims. So.
Can you touch about, is he a suspect for any other cold cases or any other things at this point?
I'm
Or
not
are you
aware
still
that he
looking
is.
at, or is just basically suspect with this particular case?
No, we're here today talking about this case. We're not aware of any others. Okay.
Okay, other questions?
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thank you all. Thank you.